Werewolf Month, and it continues. Werewolf movies all month long. You're back with Binge-Watchers podcast. If it's your first time listening, I hope you're a werewolf movie fan. Otherwise, I can't help you. If you've been listening since the beginning, you deserve like a free movie from David, whatever he's got this week. I don't know. Joined as always by Dangerous Dave and Jordan Savage, and I'm Johnny Spoiler. If I spoil a movie, it's because I love it. You'll have to deal with it. So let's get into this show. Actually, when you hear this or watch this, it'll actually be a total eclipse followed by a blood full moon. What timing for Werewolf Movie Month? Because when this episode drops, there'll be a full moon outside. That's crazy. But it's almost like somebody planned to watch werewolf movies during a full moon. I wonder who did that. I don't know. Nobody runs this show, guys. We just magically appear episodes every week. They just pop into your phones. I saw a funny post about like somebody was going through a breakup, and so they immediately canceled all their subscriptions. Netflix, Hulu, what else is there? HBO Max, gone. I was like, that would break a binge watcher's heart. But then I thought, wait a minute. If I went through a major breakup or a divorce, would I care about like who's getting the house? How are we splitting the assets? What are we doing with the bank accounts? Is there any money left to give away? Like, how is this? Like, who gets the kids? I'm worried about who's coming in after me getting free Netflix. Like, this really bothers me. Like, some schlub is going to come in and just get to watch Netflix on my dime. That to me is that's the problem you got to solve during a major breakup. For some diehard movie fans, I think that's the thing, that you got to work out, and that prenup is what do you do with the Netflix account?
See, that's what scares me is my wife actually had the Netflix account before we got together. So by all rights, it'd be hers. And I've over years built up that watch list, and you
curated it. You hand curated by a human hand, the playlist. And you're like, what do I do now?
I got to start all over. Just with my whole life and Netflix account.
Man, I feel you. I mean, I just did it and I did him dirty. When we broke up, it's so funny how you mentioned that, John, because there's so many things that this was a priority versus
it has to be right to the top of the list.
I was like, he is not about to be watching ESPN on any of my subscriptions, and so I definitely changed the password.
Somebody's not seeing the end of Game of Thrones. Who gets the throne? You never know, buddy. You'll never see. Yeah. Oh man, that's classic. So I do have to cut to a message to tell you about one of tonight's sponsors, but I think Dave's gonna giggle when I mention the word erection. So I think, Dave, I'm going to mute David at least, but maybe Jordan too, because she looks like she's in a playful mood. And so if I don't mute this whole cast, we might be in trouble. I called you guys a cast instead of a crew. That's funny too. All right. We'll be back in 30 seconds. If you're like me, you're probably guilty of allowing the stress of everyday life to bleed into your home life and maybe even the bedroom. With our busy schedules and the pressure to perform at work, you may have difficulty performing elsewhere. Meet Eddie, the modern ED treatment for the modern man. Eddie is a clinically proven, easy-to-wear device designed to help men of any age strengthen and maintain their erections. It's time to take charge of your sex life, so call 737-301-6111 to speak to a licensed nurse. And I think I'll pop that on the screen in case you didn't get my message. There, if you're watching it, there it is for you. So, visit EddieByGiddy.com and be the best version of yourself. Again, that's EddieByGiddy.com, where innovation meets ED. And now, let's start the show. Dave's still laughing, so I'll hold 1 second. I'll bring Jordan in because she's a professional, and then we'll just let Dave sit there and giggle silently. All right, Dave, get it together.
All right.
You thought you were still muted. I almost laughed, but I kept it together like a professional. Okay. Actually, that's not the official start of the show. Is that out of your system, Dave? Can we continue on?
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
Crack open a cold box of wine or pour something cold on ice because it's the Binge-Watchers podcast.
I didn't realize you had a follow-up comment, and then I clicked the theme song.
Well,
What was
now
your
the moment's
comment?
gone.
What?
I said, well, now the moment's gone. I don't even remember. It was
You don't remember 5 seconds ago?
It's been like
I cut the theme song short so I could ask you what you were going to say.
Well, the moment's gone. I don't know what to tell you. I got into the mode of the song. I was like bopping along.
The song that you can't ever memorize when she says the same thing every week.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who's bopping too, because I'm always
you gotta
doing
bop.
the air drums and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
home video headlines. What's going on in movies and TV? I'm excited about one of them, but I'll try to talk around it till I can no longer contain my excitement. Okay, there's a Netflix sketch show called "I Think You Should Leave" with Tim Robinson. Got renewed for season 3, which surprises me because that seems like a very obscure show that like only a handful of dudes would be watching. It's funny, but it's like anti-Saturday Night Live.
It's definitely got a cult following because I know there's Facebook groups I was part of that would throw around memes from that show, and it's got a rabid fan base, but it's not one of their huge hits. Probably costs like a lot less than most of their shows too.
It has some really funny bits. There's one sketch where he's in a mall dressed in like some kind of like mascot costume, and then it's supposed to be like he's like on a gag show on a cable TV gag show, like American's Funniest Something, whatever, like setting people up like a prank show. Yeah. And then he's talking from inside the suit. Do you know this, Jordan? Have you seen this sketch? Okay, he's in the suit, and then it zooms in on him, and he's just like, I want to kill myself. I just want to die. He's talking to his producer. He's talking to his producer through the microphone while he's like in the middle of a mall. And it sounds really dark, folks, but if you watch it in the context, it's actually really funny. Because obviously it's not what's supposed to be happening, and then he just has like a nervous breakdown. There's another sketch where the reality TV, it's like a TV show within a TV show, right? So the other one's like people falling out of coffins is about to be canceled. he's like, call your local cable provider if you don't want the show canceled or whatever. I don't know. It's again, it sounds, I guess, I don't know. Does it sound disturbing? Maybe it does. But when you're cruising through Netflix.
There's definitely, I mean, there's a whole sketch about him going on a ghost tour and just constantly ruining it by being too excited to be around adults that he's using the foulest language.
Yeah.
This sounds hilarious. I would totally watch this.
Yeah, so I think you should leave with Tim Robinson. So, yeah. So you have to add it to Jordan's list. The never-ending
list.
Yeah. What about Darkman? Have you ever seen or heard about this movie, Jordan? Darkman? All right, so Sam Raimi, well, like after the Evil Dead movies and then before doing Doctor Strange 2 and before Drag Me to Hell, which is another horror movie he did, Sam Raimi does this movie, and before Spider-Man, he does a horror movie / superhero movie called Darkman, where Liam Neeson's character gets burnt really bad and then uses like, I don't know, genetic science, some kind of sci-fi science to put masks on to like temporarily changes his face into other people.
For like 97 minutes or something.
There's like a countdown. There's like a counting clock. Like, oh my God, my costume's about to melt. I got to get back to my lab or whatever. It's pretty good. Anyway, they're thinking about remaking it, which is pretty cool for like B-movie fans. It's right up there with like midnight movies like the 1980s Punisher or Howard the Duck or Masters of the Universe, like really like schlocky 80s stuff, right, Dave?
Yeah, it did. It wasn't a big hit when it came out, but it, like
it's got a fan, but it's got a following.
Yeah,
I'm one of them. If I have to admit, card carrying. Here's my Darkman card.
Well, there's like 2 direct-to-video sequels, so I mean, it has its fans for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely like well, during the days of video stores, a heavily rented video, and also I want to say like USA Network or like TNT or TBS or like Spike TV when it existed. Remember that? The Man Channel, Spike TV. What did they become? Oh, they became Paramount Plus, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they're still around. They used to show marathons of Darkman, like all 3 movies or whatever it was.
It was like Darkman and 1,000 Ways to Die marathons constantly on that channel.
And then here's Dave. The next one is Dave trying really hard to create news. Like, I feel like, Dave, the other day, you showed me a picture I saw like 4 times already, like on every website, was the first photo from the set of the Blockbuster show that Netflix is making. And here's my contention, is the name tags are on the wrong side. That's the first mistake. And it's bothering me on a profound level.
We were having a conversation and I'm just like, it's okay, man. Like they'll get other things right. It's all right. It's a fictional show anyways, because the modern crew, the last Blockbuster, doesn't even wear the uniforms. So,
well, and that's what a franchisee owner would do. So it shows me that store is not corporate. They're letting them wear the name tags on the wrong side, David. They can't abide it.
watch they like rework the script just to address that for you.
Yeah, they should go and spend $2 million to digitally move the label from one side to the other. So you match
a million
corporate. Okay, if you wanted to look like corporate Blockbuster from the 2000s, let's get it right, folks. Let's do this. All right. That's the weirdest fan argument I think ever. Could you imagine going to a convention and it's a Blockbuster cast and crew like, "Oh, welcome to Comic-Con 2023. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, I've waited all day here." Who put the name tags on the wrong fucking side? Because, guy, I was a Blockbuster manager, and this is the most important thing in my life. I've wasted my entire... This moment has been building for 20 years. You fired me on a conference call with 1,400 managers. Now I'm here. You made a show about my life, but you have the audacity to wear the name tag on the wrong side? What kind of Blockbuster managers are you representing? Not the real ones.
And everybody's response is going to be, dude, it's just a show.
Dude, that's just where you walk away.
Or maybe people will start doing an applause.
Slow clap.
Yeah, slow clap. Right?
Somebody finally said it.
Good stuff.
Man.
That was passionate though, John.
Oh, really?
I felt it.
Thanks. Yeah. See, I felt like you were silently judging me 10 minutes ago. We're like, is John this?
Oh. Hey, I got fired from...
flag should have been behind you.
I got fired from the Total Recall restaurant. So, hey.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Dang. But in some late breaking news that actually is like pretty impressive, we're finally getting a proper Dirty Dancing sequel with Jennifer Grey. Unfortunately, Swayze's not in the picture. I mean, we lost him a few years ago. But you know what, David? Jennifer Grey. Back. Dancing Dirty just for you.
So is it going to be the 90s now?
No word on that yet.
All right.
I literally found out like 5 minutes before. Sorry, Jordan, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it was one of my shameful screenings. I had just recently seen Dirty Dancing for the first time in the last couple of years. So it's good timing.
Are you going to talk about it tonight or are you going to hold on?
No, I have some other ones that I'll
She got something else. She got something else in the chamber.
It's a great movie.
Slip that little guy in there. Oh my God. Nobody puts baby in the corner. So it was so good.
You want some trivia? There's trivia on that. We posted the other day on our social. Apparently, there's like an AFI documentary and Patrick Swayze's talking about how he didn't like that line originally because he misunderstood what the line was about and then he embraced it later, I guess, when they were getting the scene made. But whatever. What's your contention on that, Dave? Dave doesn't care. He hates Dirty Dancing. He's like,
Are you serious? I love Dirty Dancing. I watch it like every time around this time of year. It's a good like Mother's Day movie.
Take another sip of the energy drink. I'm just not feeling your passion for Dirty Dancing on this side of the microphone.
I'm kind of like heartbroken. Like I thought you knew my love of that movie. Actually, I'm already, right now in my head, I'm playing the scene where like they're like, "Hey baby, wow, wow, wow." Anyways, I shouldn't be singing right now.
The most profound image for me in that movie is when they're first hooking up and they're playing the really sultry songs inside his apartment and he's trying to teach her how to dance. You know what I'm talking about, Jordan, with the record player?
My favorite is when she goes up to the staff, like the staffing quarters, and they're all
with
doing
the watermelons.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other thing is the watermelon. Is the other thing
also,
that the imagery is the watermelon.
Shape of watermelons I've ever seen in my entire life.
Well, before GMO, before genetically modified engineered watermelons, like, all natural watermelons.
Those
in the Catskills.
1980s watermelons representing 1960s watermelons.
Whoa, David. Whoa. Tonight's movie has nothing to do with watermelons. I'm sorry. It's unfortunate. And we're also not here to talk about Dave's love of Dirty Dancing. We're here for the Wolfman 2010, which is a remake of the Wolfman 1941. They do change the story a little bit. It's still Larry Talbot, but I don't know if he's an actor in the original. I haven't seen that movie in a very long time.
I think he's
just a dude in the original, yeah. Anyway, an actor goes home. Some beast has already eaten his brother. he kind of gets roped into helping the family, and then surprise, surprise, spoiler alert, his daddy's a big bad werewolf, has eaten the brother. This guy gets turned into a werewolf. And then I kind of feel like the dad is kind of like lusting after the daughter-in-law. I kind of feel like he wants to replace the wife that he may or may not have also killed. But the other spoiler is there's a giant epic werewolf fight at the end of this movie between Benicio Del Toro's baby boy wolf and the daddy wolf, who's played by Anthony Hopkins. And it's pretty brutal. Like, you would say, like, the younger wolf in nature, could he take on the alpha predator? I don't know, because, like, he's getting really chewed up at one point. Like, the dad's, like, eating all parts of him, and I'm like, what? There's, like, nothing left of this dude. Like, it's getting pretty gnarly. Dave, you got some dangerous details about this movie?
I do. So this movie unfortunately had a pretty troubled production. It originally started with director Mark Romanek, who did 1 Hour Photo, but he dropped out due to creative differences. Then director Joe Johnston came on with only 3 weeks to prep. So because of that, he had to use more CGI because he didn't have time to prep practical effects like other movies. The release date was actually pushed back 4 times because it had like over 6 months of reshoots for various things, like having the Wolfman use all 4 legs rather than just 2. Another part of how this movie was so screwed up in production, the composer Danny Elfman's score was originally replaced because they decided to go a different route for the music. And then they ended up not liking the new music they paid somebody to make. So they put back in Danny Elfman's score after the fact. So they just keep flip-flopping on musicians or scores. This is actually one of only 2 werewolf movies that have won Oscars for best makeup effects, with the other being, of course, American Werewolf in London. And both were actually won by Rick Baker. So, you know, this movie does have an Academy Award. I kind of always forget that.
That's like a preview of like Dave not liking the movie or something.
And this is actually the second adaptation of a classic horror movie with Anthony Hopkins, of course, the other being Bram Stoker's Dracula. So he was all about redoing horror movies of old times.
Yeah.
So Jordan, favorite bits?
Wait, no, we're not going to favorite bits, not yet.
Mid-roll.
We gotta go to some messages from our other sponsors tonight. So we'll be back after these messages. But first, we're gonna talk to you about some. Dave's gonna help me on this one because he knows what this product is.
Yeah, I do.
All right, so VPN stand for Virtual Private Networks. It's a service that's going to protect your internet connection and your privacy online by creating an encrypted tunnel for your data to protect your online identity by hiding your IP address. It's going to allow you to use public Wi-Fi hotspots safely because no one likes to be watched, hacked, or tracked, even if they have nothing to hide. That's why it's important to step up your privacy game. When you're browsing through a VPN, your traffic is encrypted so no one can see what you do online. You can grab our exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/binge-watch. Get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan, plus a free threat protection, plus 1 additional month free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. David actually introduced me to the idea of a VPN, and that's how I'm getting hooked up with like all my British stuff from like the BBC player and like the stuff that you can't get even with like signing up for like the British American subscriptions. Like there's still stuff you can't get. So collectively, it's a good idea. But Dave knows more about this than I do. So Dave, why should our listeners have a VPN?
Well, kind of like just to piggyback off what you were saying, if you have one subscription to Netflix, you've got Netflix all across the world. So right now, if you, like John and me, you're watching Better Call Saul and you don't subscribe to AMC Plus, guess what? England's Netflix has it there. So just switch your VPN to England and you get to watch new episodes of Better Call Saul the next day. The other thing is if you have an internet service that does something called throttling, which is basically slowing down your internet speed at will, this stops that. So I can download my podcasts or movies to my tablet to watch later a lot faster than I used to. So it's totally worth it in that regard.
That's like a hidden special feature of using a VPN, because I wouldn't have thought about that, because the cable companies do, like, I have cable internet, so like they do group your internet speed together with like the houses around you. But if they didn't know that you were there, they thought you were like in Korea watching international Netflix. You know what I mean? Like you win. That's what it is, folks. You win with the VPN. So again, if you want to take advantage of this offer that they got going for our listeners, go to nordvpn.com/binge-watch. Oh, And now I get to tell you about something else. Here we go. I get to tell you about a podcast. We're starting to feature podcasts on our show so you can learn about other great shows you should be tuning into. So today I want to tell you about the Starfleet Leadership Academy. It's an award-winning leadership development podcast told through the lens of Star Trek. Star Trek is full of great examples of leadership. So Jeff, the host, he's a leader with over 20 years of experience in executive management in both the public and private sectors. He's going to break down episodes of Star Trek from the original series to Discovery and beyond, pointing out examples of great leadership management, communication, and more. So if you enjoy Star Trek or even a little bit Trek curious, then you have an appetite for leadership development, this podcast is for you. We're going to go ahead and play their trailer so you can decide if it's the podcast for you. Here we go. This is the Starfleet Leadership Academy. Check it out.
Leadership, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starfleet Leadership Academy. Its ongoing mission to develop leaders through Star Trek. To boldly go where no podcast has gone before. A leadership development podcast told through the lens of Star Trek. The Starfleet Leadership Academy. Available everywhere you listen to podcasts.
Oh boy. Dave, are you going to tune into that Star Trek podcast?
I just might.
You've already downloaded it? You're already subscribed? Good job, Dave.
Now is it favorite bits time?
No, I got a surprise for David, and he's gonna be extremely excited about this, and then we'll get to favorite bits.
All right. Oh.
Dave, it's The Lost City. Watch The Lost City tonight on digital. The hilarious adventure starring Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. They're gonna take you on a thrill ride through the jungle to survive the elements and find ancient treasure before it's lost forever. Critics are calling it a non-stop fun. Bring the adventure home on digital today and go inside the making of the movie with over 15 minutes of extras, including deleted scenes, bloopers, and much more. Bonus content available at participating retailers. Rated PG-13 from Paramount Pictures, of course. And our friends at Paramount Pictures are going to hook up our audience. We have some giveaway codes, some on-demand features for you to take a look at, get a free copy of the movie. Jordan, how do they get a free copy of this movie?
You go review. It's what we like to do. So leave us a review.
Apparently, my crew wants to actually have a podcast tonight and not just hear about all the great stuff the listeners can do. So Dave, what was that? Grinding your teeth, rolling your eyes at me? We're finally here. Favorite bits of the Wolfman.
I'll kick us off.
I can't wait for, you know what the next review is going to be, Jordan? It's going to be like, what a sell-a-thon. It was a series of commercials. I don't want VPN shit. Where is my Wolfman summary favorite bit? Dangerous, David.
They want the bits.
Well, guess what? You don't get a copy of The Lost City.
That's right. For being such an asshole, you get nothing, Terry. Terry from England. Maybe he's not really from. Maybe he's not from England. Maybe he's just VPNing and he's really in Philadelphia. Who knows? Can't tell because he hooked himself up with that free month of NordVPN.
The bits.
I will make sure not to send the sponsors all these outtakes that are also involved in the rest of the episode, but they have the choice to listen to the whole episode, so who knows?
There you go. You know. Okay, bits time. Well, I think.
Are you sure? Should we really drag it out and talk about something? No, just kidding.
I think, with the exception of Werewolves Within, a good werewolf movie is determined by the transformation, and this one I thought was really cool. With the nasty fingers bending and the feet shooting out and the teeth coming out of his, I don't know, gums and whatnot. But I also really liked Singh's role in it, which is the servant to Sir John. He's kind of hinting at the fact that, his, I guess, I don't know what you want to call him. The guy who owns the house is the werewolf, and I didn't really pick up on that until honestly at the very moment that Sir John Talbot was gonna lock himself inside the crypt. So yeah, loved that. But what about you, Dave?
That very first I don't know what you want to call it, the very first massacre scene before Larry's actually attacked. When we find out who the werewolf was after the fact. But that first scene is just very brutal. I forgot, it's been about 12 years since I've seen this, so I kind of forgot how actually brutal this movie is. It's a studio movie, but it actually brings some gore to it. And I just like the overall set. Like a lot of movies don't do this anymore, but like some movies actually look better if they're on you can tell a lot of this was done on sound stages. It has that kind of look, that feel of an old, it's like the old movies it's replicating. So, I mean, it just has a very classic look that I don't see done too much in modern movies. So, yeah. What about you, John?
My favorite bit is the werewolf fight, which I spoiled earlier in tonight's episode. I think it's worth it. I think, like, get through the sloggy period piece. Take it or leave it, Emily Blunt. This movie is not my favorite Emily Blunt movie. My favorite of her movies is actually a comedy called The 5-Year Engagement. Have you guys seen this?
I thought it was going to be The Devil Wears Prada.
No,
that's my favorite. Sorry.
Which also has a werewolf. Yeah. So, spoiler alert. Anyway, and one scene really bugs me. It's a transformation in the nut house. Like it's like CGI driven, and you were talking about how Rick Baker's here to do the makeup. Like, I'm sure I don't know. I wasn't paying attention when you were giving the details because it's not for me anyway. It's for the audience. Like, I'm like waiting for the next thing to happen. Like Jordan is like, where's the bits? Let's get to the bits. Let's get to the bits. So you might have brought it up, but like they failed that sequence. Like they, you know what I mean? Like they could have used traditional makeup and photography. They didn't, and cut, like they could have cut between him transforming like the one phase after the other progressively more to the, startled reactions of the people in the observation deck there or whatever, all the doctors, rather than that crap they did with his face while he's strapped to the chair, whatever. Dunking in the ice water is cool, but I don't know, man.
I will slightly defend that scene. Everything you're saying is correct. I won't dispute how awful it looks, but just in the context of the movie and what it's doing, I mean, I still got wrapped up in it. Like I think it's a well-made scene, but yes, it would have benefited a lot more if it got to be practical. But yeah,
practicality.
I mean, I'm still gonna say binge now. So there you go.
Well, we jumped right to that. What about you?
He's like, I've got all this stuff to do during the whole podcast. I don't know what you guys are doing. And then all of a sudden we just well, it's binge now for me as well.
I'm gonna say binge.
And I believe you. I believe Jordan's authority tonight because of the frames that she's wearing. She's got a pair of eyeglass shades. I don't know if they're cosmetic or prescription, but she's rocking this thing and she sounds like she knows what she's talking about.
No, I definitely have to use them to see. So yeah.
Functional and stylish, folks.
There you go.
Go to our exclusive eyewear.com code and enter. No, I'm just kidding.
So I'm going to be the outlier here and say binge later. I really liked this movie the first time I saw it. I guess me and John kind of switched. I think if you watch this movie more than twice, it falls apart. And I don't know how many times John's seen it, but this is like my third or fourth. The other thing is just like you guys, I watched the director's cut, and this I think was the first time I've seen that. And this is one of those rare occasions where I think the studio R-rated cut is actually probably the better one because it moves a lot faster. So that's the best I can say. I'm going to say binge later for this guy, this Wolfman.
What are you going to do? That's a shameful rating, David, which brings us to shameful screenings with Jordan.
Yeah, I actually took a recommendation from John this week, and I watched You Got Mail for the first time. It was so cute. I don't know why. I've been on like and it's not on purpose watching all these Tom Hanks movies, but it was nice to just watch something like super cheery and a little gushy. And it was really, really, really cute. And just thinking about the way like AOL and dial-up was back in the day and like email, just like blast from the past, So
see, hearing you guys talk about it, I haven't seen it since the 90s. So the last time I watched it, that stuff was new. It wasn't nostalgic at the time. So I'm kind of curious to go back and watching it through a different lens.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so here's where it falls apart for me, and I was holding off to make sure that everybody on the show had seen it. Listeners, you're on your own. I don't know what to tell you. Turn the show off or continue.
For this 24-year-old movie.
Yeah, Tom Hanks movie, whatever. And Meg Ryan, who should come back to acting anytime soon. Okay, so she has a little bookstore, and it's going to be outdone by like a big box bookstore that he runs with his dad and his grandpa, and they're all players. He's got like he has an aunt that's like 9, and he's like in his 40s, and then he's got a brother who's like also 10 or something, right? Because the family just kind of plays around and sells books. I don't know. But he's secretly fallen in love with Meg Ryan's character, who owns the little bookstore around the corner, and literally it's around the corner, and she owns it, and that's what it's called. But they're talking on AOL Instant Messenger, which is like Internet One, folks. Like they had the internet. You could go to a web page, or you could sign in, and it would go like whatever that noise is. I can't make it, and it's probably trademarked. I can't play it, but it's a very specific sound. You can Google what AOL sounds like, and then you get in there, and you're just talking to people. It's kind of like an old-fashioned text message, whatever. And they don't reveal who they are, and they do that on purpose for like most of the movie. But then, like, her bookstore is going bankrupt, and like I'm like, wait a minute. So here's where the rules of like romantic comedies are supposed to apply, right? And mad respect for the filmmaker, because I think it's Nora Ephron, and she's good. That's who it is, right, Dave?
Either her or Nancy Myers, one of those.
Okay, so either way, they're doing a good job, but then like when it's time for him to come in and save the bookstore, he doesn't save the bookstore. So it's like, dude, you screwed up right there. And then after he reveals who he is, but he still continues with the facade of like, I'm not going to tell her who I am. And then he's like having her compete with him. He's like making her, yes, he's competing for her love with himself, because he's created like an alternate identity online of himself that she's interacting with. And then she meets him in real life. And so he's trying to make sure that she falls in love with him in person and forgets about the fantasy. But then he continues with the charade till the end of the movie, and she's okay with it. So then I'm like, okay, they've already broken romantic comedy logic by not saving the ladies' bookstore. That's what happens is guy meets girl. Guy loses girl, either something he did or she did, or they do together and then it doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. But then there's like a major reward situation. And in this movie, you're following the path of like all the stones that they've set up. And like, so it would be natural. And they must have fought about this, like, during production. Somebody had a fight about this. Like, I don't know. Like, so somebody talked about this. Like, are we going to save the bookstore? No. What do you mean we're not going to save the bookstore? What are we doing watching this movie for what have we been here doing for 2 hours, David? So then they don't save the bookstore. He stalks. He's like a sociopath serial killer, goes to the park. By the way, it's been me the whole time, and here's my dog. You're cool with that? Cool. Credits roll, we're in love. He just manipulated her right to the end of the movie. Like, Jordan, come on.
I thought it was so cute. I love that you knew. Hey, I've done some psycho shit on some. Let me tell you.
Like cutting off a dude's Netflix. Like it all comes back around full circle. See how that happened?
I hate that you guys have convinced me to rewatch this movie. Like I might have to put it on my watch list.
You know how this happens? You're lonely. It's 2:00 in the morning. You crack open a Bud Light and you're watching You Got Mail. That's how it happens, bud.
Online dating has evolved a lot.
Has it really?
Manipulation. So, yeah.
I remember. See, I haven't even watched it recently, but I'm remembering all the specific sounds of the doodaloo message in. You've got mail. Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah,
I used to have some online girlfriends through AOL Messenger back in the day. Now, of course, they're across the country.
We know what Dave's doing later tonight. He's gonna watch You Got Mail.
Do it
and try to reconnect with the person.
Old
I met
flames.
Like,
we're gonna expect you to pick a side. You're gonna have to pick a side next week, Dave. Like, I mean, all the notes are gonna say is You Got Mail.
Perfect.
So, in fact, I might do that. Just send you guys a piece of paper that just says You Got Mail several times in a row.
You know what's sad is the way that John just described that movie. Basically, capitalism wins, if I remember right. Like
he's not wrong.
I mean, Fox Books. If I remember, see, this movie's flooding back to me. I haven't watched it for like 20 years, and now I'm remembering it all. Like it was like Fox Books, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's his name.
Yeah, because it was like their version of Barnes and Noble. So this is like, although like Barnes and Noble's almost, aren't they on the brink of bankruptcy at this point? Maybe not. I don't know. They might be like the only major book chain at all anymore.
What'd you watch, Dave?
We don't have time for that. It's all You Got Mail.
I in essence I watched 3 movies because Mystery Science Theater 3000 is back with the new season, and they just dropped 3 new episodes. The best of which is like Santo and oh man, I've already forgotten the full title, but it was like Santo versus Dracula or something like that. Whereas an old wrestler luchador movie that also.
Are you watching the Mexican Dracula movies?
In Mystery Science Theater 3000, yeah.
Oh, Dave, why can't you just watch the original pure cuts of these movies?
Because it wouldn't be nearly as fun as watching robots and a guy make fun of it.
Darn it.
So, yeah.
Bummer.
So, Mystery Science Theater nerds, they're back. Go watch it. You have to buy their specific subscription to it now. Which I did, of course. What about you, John? Besides You've Got Mail, convincing everybody to watch You've Got Mail. What else are you watching? Well, I know of a couple things, but
weren't you on a rom-com kick this week?
I was, but then I went back to watch Top Gun. And
also a romantic comedy?
My contention with Top Gun is like, why didn't anybody tell Tom Cruise that he had a unibrow? Or was the unibrow part of his character development? Or maybe it makes you a better pilot. But I thought less hair makes you more aerodynamic.
Aerodynamic. Yeah.
Okay. Time to play the end song now. We're going to end on an awful pun.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, who's got the comments? Who wants it?
I was gonna say, you guys aren't gonna kick me off for not seeing a million iconic movies, but Aerodynamic was the thing that got me off the show. Not that I haven't seen,
do we even want to tell anybody what we're watching next week? Or are we just gonna let them figure it out?
We're watching a movie that has like 7 werewolves in it. It's called Dog Soldiers. It has like a bunch of werewolves, not just 1, not 2, not 3. It has a lot, David. Like it's a werewolf sandwich.
Have you seen it before, Dave?
Years ago, so this is going to be like Ginger Snaps, where it's going to be kind of like a first-time watch because it's been so long.
Okay.
So, I got excited for a second because we were talking amongst the group about watching Alvin and the Chipmunks meets the Wolfman, and I was thinking, is there like 7 werewolves?
All right, so here's the thing. Talking about Alvin and Chipmunks meets the Wolfman is a whole podcast. So if we start talking now at the end of this show, we'll be here for another hour because in the early 2000s, they're like, it seems like every 2 years they're trying to reboot the Universal monster movies somehow. And they're like, well, we have Alvin and the Chipmunks. Let's throw in the Wolfman and Frankenstein. So they do the Frankenstein one, but then they do the Wolfman, and Theodore becomes a werewolf. Not only does Theodore become a werewolf, he wrestles the Wolfman on stage, and that is killer. And I was goofing around, but I thought so. I went back to the cartoon.
I'm like, why are we
right? It sounds fun because I went back to the cartoon to make sure I had the story straight because I was like making jokes about the live action Chipmunks. What if they got that skater actor Jason Lee from My Name Is Earl, who was in the live action Chipmunk movies, and they brought them back in a live action meets the Wolfman movie? And then your suggestion, Dave, was what? You wanted an R-rated version where...
Well, yeah, David becomes a werewolf.
Yeah.
Or Wolfman.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the Chipmunks will...
It's not... Here's the crazy thing. I mean, they just made Top Gun 2. They're giving us a proper Dirty Dancing sequel. They're making all this stuff that's like nostalgic. Why is it out of the realm of possibility that somebody can go Alvin the Chipmunks, but a werewolf in a live action movie, and it's gonna get dirty? Why not? I mean, it's not. I think you could sell some tickets.
Unfortunately, I think they're Disney now because the movies were done by Fox, which Disney owns now.
If you use that VPN, Disney comes with unrated materials internationally. So there's a way to work this out. I'm just saying.
Well, there's always a way. Life finds a way.
Jordan approved. Stamp it and make it.
I love it. Let's go.